Hello everyone, my name is Neo Harter, aka the Farm Boy. You have reached Farm Boy Meets the World, or FBMW for short. I am joined by Professor Mikael Gayen. Professor Gayen is currently teaching French at the University of California, Santa Barbara. He has agreed to meet with myself and my team to discuss his life, to discuss his career as a teacher, and to just discuss some of the unique experiences that he's had as an individual. So, Professor Gayen, this is a second take. We made the mistake the first time with not putting on the mic, so we'll just try to continue as we were. Can you please tell me, how are you doing today? And then I want to discuss your career path after that, but please, I want to discuss how you're doing today first.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Yes, of course. Again.
Second time. I'm good. Happy to be here. Happy to helping you and your team. So always good.
Yes, I know you're a busy guy, so we are very, very thankful that you're able to make some time for us. Speaking of how busy you are, I wanted to discuss your career path. So we obviously touched on it a little bit prior to starting the second session, but if you don't mind again, can we just kind of go over what we had discussed just a little bit? I think you mentioned that you began your career in the mall, right? And then you were roller skating, I believe. So if you don't mind just expanding on that a little bit, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, so yeah, indeed, I was roller skating in a mall. So it was a part-time job. I was a student at the time. I started at 18.
Yes.
So at 18, I was enrolled and I was like, okay, let's have a first part-time job. Started as a cashier. And then after a few months, they were like, oh, Michael, do you know how to roller skate? And I was like, sure. Which was not true.
You figured you can learn it, right?
Yeah, I learned it. I was having a cart, it was like that, and then I stopped and I was roller skating, and that was so great. And it wasn't the blade, it was a roller skating, like the quad.
Yeah, I see.
And that was great.
Is that normal for one to begin work at 18 in France?
Yeah. So to work in France, you need to have 18, but sometimes you can do it like at 16 for.
Oh, you have to be 18 to work in France.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know that. Interesting.
Well, you can have if you're having like a more professional education, you can start at 16, but you're having classes on the side or something.
Mm-hmm.
But in France, you need to have 18 to be able to drive, to be able to drink, to be able to work.
Interesting. So there's not a random, like in the United States, for example, you have to be 16 to drive, and then 21 to drink, and then 18 to vote. It's literally, it's interesting. Okay, so you began your first job at 18, like it sounds like most French students do at 18, right?
Yeah.
And then so how did you get the job at the mall?
It was my brother who was working there, who himself got the job because his friend was working there,
networking.
and himself got the job because her sister was working there, and her brother was working there.
Okay. I hope everyone was a good worker, right?
Yeah. Otherwise,
everyone. Exactly.
But it was a great team. We were having a lot of different people from all around the town, and it was a great team. It's a very big mall, so. Very interesting experience. I learned a lot about it. I was really shy before, and I changed because you need to be in contact with people because it's a mall, and that changed. I learned, and so yeah, great job.
So I've never ever seen anyone. I'm not a super materialistic person, but I do go to malls sometimes. Walk around, look at the stores and things like that. Sometimes spend a little bit of money, but I've never ever seen someone rollerblading or skating through a mall ever. Do they still do that in France? Is that something that's typical, or is that unique for your mall?
No, I've seen it in different malls.
Okay.
So the mall I'm working at was Carrefour, and it's some kind of a Target, but it's a very big one. I'm living on the countryside in Paris, so it was in the middle of the field. To get there, I had to take a bus and then walk for half an hour.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, just near the road. At first, it wasn't even.
You would think that the business, right? Okay, I don't know if you've been to Disneyland here, for example. This is the first thing that comes to mind. Disneyland, they have the parking areas, and then they have shuttles that take people to and from the actual amusement park. It sounds like they don't have that there.
So we were having a parking, but since I was 18 and it was my first job, I didn't have any money, and I didn't have a car and didn't have my license, so I couldn't drive. So I was walking just close to the road. Be careful not getting hit by cars.
Jeez.
But that was great. I mean, I've done that underwater, under the rain, on the snow. So
No bike or anything? I think
during the summer I was using a bike.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
During the summer I was using a bike, but still, like, well, I should have put an helmet, but I didn't put any helmet. It's okay. I never had an accident. Yeah, at UCSB I'm seeing all the students.
No helmets.
Yeah,
And they're
like
moving so
nothing.
fast too.
I'm like, okay.
Have you been to Amsterdam?
Never.
Oh
never.
my gosh, I went to Amsterdam and if you think UCSB is crazy, Amsterdam, I'm sure you're familiar, is insane. Absolutely insane. No helmets for one. And on the bike paths, they say it's a bike path, right? But then, you're going on it for 5 minutes. It's great. All of a sudden, though, there's a freaking scooter, literally a scooter that's going, 40 miles per hour past you, and it's apparently okay because it's the bike path. Now, I almost got knocked over a few times by a freaking scooter that was, going by super fast. And then so I'm an American. I'm like, what are the laws here? I want to figure this thing out. And so I look it up, and then apparently the scooters, if you have a certain, I think it's basically a category of license plates.
Mm-hmm.
They have categories in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam in particular. And so if you have apparently a blue license plate, you can take whatever you want on the bike paths. And so, yeah, that was interesting for me. So one thing I was wondering is you said that you had a group of friends with you that not a group of friends, but a group of people that you knew that work at the mall, right?
Yeah.
That worked at the mall. Did you guys ever consider carpooling, driving together to the?
Sometimes we were having that, but we had different schedule.
Yeah.
Because it was a part-time job. Sometimes I was starting around 5 until 9 or 10. 9:45, but then you have to wait until the customers get out of the mall, and then you close everything. And then it was dark, so I'm like, could you take me home? Yeah, sure, thank you. So that was interesting. And it's also the way you meet new people.
Yeah.
You can ask them stuff and you become friends with them. And that was a great job. I mean, for a first job, I was happy that this like the team took me in, and after that I was able to train others about the job, and roller skating also, and yeah. And in 2016, I've been asked to manage a little bit the teams, which was nice. Like, you come before the mall open, you get to deal with the money. Okay, you need to do this, that, this, and also at night, you need to close everything, make sure everything is okay, close the system.
Oh, so it sounds like you're full time at that point, right?
No,
no,
that's the thing. I was still paid like minimum.
Oh my god, what was the minimum wage at the time?
Minimum wage, I think it's like 11.75 an hour.
11 euros. 75.
Yeah, euros 75 an hour. So I don't care about money. I do not complain. I was able to live with that, and then later I bought a car and had my driving license.
So this is when you were 18, is when you began that job, and then it sounds like you were there for a couple years. How long were you there?
So I was under the contract with them until 2022.
Oh wow!
But in 2017, I had to stop working for them. I got sick, and so I wasn't able to get to the job anymore.
Right.
So, but they keep me under contract until 2022.
Kind of like a retainer, just in case you were willing to come back.
Yeah.
That makes
and
sense.
I was planning on coming back because I hate just dropping things.
Yeah.
And that's.
You didn't just drop it.
Yeah, but even that, I hate having to say no to something and just to, I don't know. I don't like dropping things, and even if I got sick, I wanted to be back at that job because I like the people there and I like the job I was doing. I think I was good at it.
I mean, it sounds, if they wanted you to come back, if they had you on a retainer, then
Yeah.
And I'm sure they appreciated you. They wanted you back.
Now I'm still going there when I'm doing my groceries in France. I'm going to the office. I'm like, hey
guys,
yeah. And in 2002, I had to stop and say, you need to put an end to my contract.
In 2022.
Yeah. 2022. Yeah. I had to put an end to this contract because I wanted to have an internship for my master's degree. So we put an end to my contract, and then I was able to get into the National Museum of Natural History in Paris.
So you were You were there from 2018 until technically 2022. That's when you ended your contract,
Mhm.
and you were a student in 2018, right?
20. No, I was 18, but it was 2020, 2010.
Oh, I see. Yeah, it was
I was
2010.
Yeah.
I see.
It was 2010 until 2022.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I see. And then so you were a student when you began, right?
Yeah.
You were just an undergraduate. It sounds like.
Well, yeah. So I was, after high school, I went to learn about art school.
HR.
So in high school,
Mhm.
I learned about HR. Because I wanted to
Human
learn
relations.
wanted to
Yeah.
know
Uh-huh.
communication.
Human resources.
And so
I
wanted to know
after that, I was like,
communication.
okay.
And
And
so I was good at
so
drawing.
after that, I
My
was
kind
like,
of
okay.
stuff.
I was good at drawing. My kind of
I
stuff.
was not able to do like really good
I
things.
was not able to do like
what I
really
was
good things.
Yeah.
I was good at what I was
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
So
Sounds
I've
okay.
done
Let's
3
go.
years.
So I've done
Didn't
3
finish
years.
the last year.
Didn't finish last year.
No, I
last
didn't
year.
finish the third.
Didn't finish last year.
No, I didn't finish the third
year
of
of the
the-
graphic
I
design
did
school.
not
Of the
finish
graphic
the
design
third
school.
year of the graphic design school.
Of the graphic design school.
Let's say that
let's
I got
say-
expelled.
Let's say
Okay.
that.
Yeah, nothing. It was family issue.
Yeah,
that
nothing. It was
Prevented
family
you-
issue.
yeah,
that
the aftermath came. For
Prevented
me.
you from being
yeah,
able to
the
focus.
aftermath came for me. And
It
it's
stopped.
like, okay.
So now I was working at that
It
mall.
stopped. So
part-time,
now I was
And
working
then
at that
from
mall
time to time when they
part-time,
needed more. I
and
was
then
like,
from
okay,
time to
let's
time when
sign
they needed more, it was like, okay, let's sign.
How did
this
you?
more.
So I don't want to. How did you? So I don't want to. It sounds like a value statement, a judgment statement, but it's really not. I'm really interested. Do you? There's kind of this. I mean, anywhere I suppose when people, like you said, they quit things or they can't. They're not able to do things. There's that sense of like you're settling for less almost by doing the maybe the mall job or something. Did you feel like that you were settling for less?
I don't know.
When you went from being you were working, or excuse me, you were being educated in a really an emerging field in the art industry, the graphic design, and then you mentioned the advertisements, and then you go from that to working. I don't want to be reductive, but in a mall, you know what I mean? It's a little bit. It's in my opinion, it's a little bit of a downgrade. You know what I mean? How did you feel about that?
I never saw that as some kind of a downgrade.
Mhm.
I said. Because I knew it was a part-time and it will be a part-time and it was a part-time.
Mm-hmm.
And no, I was like, I needed money to eat, to do
Right,
whatever.
right.
So I had to do that. And I liked the job and I learned so much about it that I would never see that as a downgrade.
Okay, yeah. You see, I did it. It's like I said, I don't want to do a value judgment. I just want
Don't
to
worry.
understand.
And honesty, I appreciate honesty. Let's say, no, I was good at my job. I liked the job I was doing, and life put something else afterwards. I was like, okay, let's take it. So after this graphic design school, I went to the university to learn English because my English was so bad, so bad during the graphic design school area, let's say. And I went to Paris 8 University, University of Paris 8, in Saint-Denis, so north of Paris.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started a bachelor degree in English literature.
Oh, okay. You mentioned the Odyssey in class the other day when we were sitting down, and no one else knew what you were talking about. I think there was only a few of us that knew what you were talking about. Did you guys, or obviously doing English literature, you had to do a lot of reading, a lot of writing, and things like that. I have a question about English learning. Obviously, I'm learning French. I'm working with Spanish as well, but English I just absorbed as a child. Can you describe some of the difficulties learning English?
Oh, I don't know why, but in France they make a big deal with the irregular verb,
Mm-hmm.
and I do get it. But I'm like, most of the irregular verb, like some of them, they're not irregular. I mean, read. The writing doesn't change. Just the spelling changed, like the pronunciation changed, and they make a big deal of it. And I was trouble understanding the grammar.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. And now I'm like, I know that was easy, and I just was maybe too dumb at the time, but that's okay. It's learning, so that's why I'm really feeling with the student when they're learning French,
Right.
because I have trouble in the past learning English.
Mhm.
So I'm like, okay, we need to work on thing. I'll try to help you going through it and understand why you can't figure it out by yourself.
So when you were learning English, what was the, I suppose you could say the model, in class, for example, in class we do our reading assignments at home and things like that, not the reading assignments, but the book work, the textbook work, and then we have some we have some questions and things that we submit to you on the website, and then we actually come in class and we speak and we talk and we speak in French and we apply some of that stuff. Can you speak on the model that they had there and your experiences?
So at the university, we were back at the beginning. So grammar, okay, from pronoun, verb, adjectives, adverbs, all of those kind of things, like relative clause. And it's something that now I'm trying to teach to my students, and I'm like, okay, but I do get that in the US it's not something that is obviously something that people learn in class.
You mean emphasized?
Yeah.
Like language learning in general? Yeah, it's not at all.
And so that's why when I'm talking about grammar, sometimes I have like dead eyes and I'm like, no, it's okay, it's okay.
Yeah.
But I do get it now, and since I started from the very beginning, okay, and I also work on phonetics, and I was good at phonetics, linguistics, love it, history, literature, and so started from the beginning, and now I was able to learn, and I started looking at video online on YouTube about YouTubers and stuff, and I just learned this way.
So, from my understanding, the way that phonetics work, the phoneme sets, you know what I mean? You're, from a child, basically, depending on which environment you're in, you develop what you can call a phoneme set, right? And that's just the way that you pronounce sounds, essentially. Is this correct? Do you mind clarifying me on this?
Yeah, phonetic is so on the written, it's not using it has its own vocabulary, so it's the IPA, so it's not a beer, it's the International Phonetic Alphabet, so there's a whole like table with different sounds that pretty much match the way your mouth is made, so you have plosive, you have glottal, you have a nasal for the nose and stuff, and that is why I was able to learn English that way easier, because I was like, okay, try to mirror, try to understand how things work in it, how it is on paper.
Right.
And during the university, I used to take my notes in phonetics to be faster.
What do you mean in phonetics?
Like, I was using all the phoneme sound to write my classes.
I see.
All the courses I was having, I was writing, and people were like, Michael, do you have the class so I can borrow it to you? I'm like, yeah, sure. So like, I can't read it. Oh, sorry. Okay, sure.
Sorry.
So, but it helped me practice. Okay, practice helped me understand it, and I was really good at it. And I was giving classes from time to other people. Even though I was having the same class as them, I was good at it, and therefore I was able to help them.
Yeah.
So I was like booking a little room in the university, and I was able to help them. So maybe that was my first path into teaching.
Right?
Yeah.
I was about to say, it sounds like you had a nice introduction to it while you were learning English. So I'm trying to imagine because for me personally, when I do this very similar thing, I don't actually write in phonetics. I write everything in French. I basically write all of because when I'm learning French, of course, in your classes, I try to take all of my notes in French, and I listen to as much French music as possible, and I watch French things and things like that, and I listen to the Google translations and things. I'm wondering, is that a good method to listen to the Google translation? Because when sorry, go ahead. Maybe not for grammar, but for the pronunciation.
Yeah, it's always good to like get your ear, understand, listening to it. Okay, you listen, and at some point you might be able to like get a few sounds that you will be able to pronounce, and that's the way you make it. And Google is not the best, just like Duolingo. I have friends who are currently using Duolingo in French, and the other day, so they're just starting, and the other day we were having fun because it says like an apple and an orange, and it says une pomme and une orange. No, it doesn't sound in French or whatever. It's like une pomme et une orange.
Une pomme et une orange.
Et une orange. But no, the app is having like, I don't know, some kind of an accent. I'm like, maybe it's just an AI stuff. Maybe it's pre-recorded, but the sound isn't really.
Do you see that? Have you experienced Duolingo yourself with any other languages? Is it working for you?
I had a semester of Japanese in Paris at the university, and so to help me with it, I was using Duolingo for Japanese. But the thing is, Japanese Duolingo does not go from France to French to Japanese, go from English to Japanese. So I was like, okay, sure, can do it. And that was good. And you can learn the alphabet, like the katakana, hiragana.
Hiragana, right?
No, the kanji.
No kanji?
No, hiragana. Well, some of them, like watashi was some kind of a triangle. But the hiragana, katakana, and in fact, it mirrors a little bit the phonetics because it's of course syllabus. So it's interesting during the Japanese class. I was like, oh, okay, there's some of them were using the vocal cord and some not, and so therefore there's the tenten or the maru, so the brown or double on top of it. And I was like, yeah, so that matched what I already know about phonetics, so I could use it.
Wait, what did you say the dots?
So there's the tenten, and the maru, it's a little brown sound. And it's like, for instance, the p and the b are in fact the same sound. The difference is you using the vocal cord, like the p does not use it, and the b definitely use the vocal cord. Yeah. And
p. Oh, okay, yeah, I know it.
And so the p is a plosive that is not vocal, and the b is a plosive that is vocal.
Okay.
And so.
And then you can you distinguish how to actually pronounce the sound just by the.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I mean, it's the same in French, you know, when it's similar, at least with the accents that we have, right?
The accent, yeah.
The accent.
It depends. Sometimes the accent is like, yeah, and sometimes there's no accent, but they change the.
Okay. So I had a very good friend who was living here last quarter. His name is Amoto, and we learned a little bit of Japanese through him. I only know how to say watashi no namae wa Nio desu, watashi wa California sushin desu, stuff like that, and then ganbatte, and I think probably my favorite phrase, ganbatte. And I honestly that's the only Japanese I have right now. So you what is your Japanese proficiency like? What would you say?
It's very beginning.
Very beginning. You only took one semester, you said, right?
Yeah, I took just a semester, and it was the very basics. So I learned the basic. I know, just like you, I also introduced myself. I know how to say I don't like fish or yeah. I don't remember vegetable. I know like coffee wa nomimasen. I don't drink coffee, but it's the basics.
So you're speaking, you know French, right? Obviously, English, and then you know some Spanish, you say, right?
Yeah, I can understand Spanish.
Uh-huh.
I can definitely not speak Spanish.
See.
A lot of, when I was having an exam in France and I said pretty much that I was loving some kind of an adult movie, and I was about, what I wanted to say is that I was loving watching cooking show, and cocina is different than cochina. And so it followed me throughout high school, and it was okay.
Would you say like me gusta las películas cochinas?
Yeah,
something
cochinas, something like that. And just like looking at me like that, I was like, "What are you doing, Michael?" I'm like, "Cochinas, like cochinas, like las cochinas." And it's like, cocina. I'm like, maybe, yeah, sure.
Me gusta las películas cochinas. That's funny.
So yeah, and that's what making mistakes is also the way of learning things. I'm like, I do remember that I will remember that until my last day, I think so.
Yeah, no, definitely. I definitely know that when I make mistakes in French class, it's one of the first things I do is, turn all red, get embarrassed, and then the next thing is put it in the notebook, and then, I don't forget. I try not to forget at least. Okay, so I understand that you went from the mall, right? And you ended there in 2022 technically, but it was more like 2017 when you stopped working there, right? Mm-hmm. And then I do want to discuss what happened in 2017, but before we do that, I want to talk a little bit about the next job you had, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So no, go ahead. Sorry, please.
So I was still at the university at the time, and I was in a master's degree. And
you're doing the English literature, right?
Yeah. It was the master. So the master's degree, I ended it in 2019. Okay, and then I went into a bachelor's degree in 2020. And it was about still English and French. Okay, but this time was communication and journalistic writing. So it was really interesting. Wasn't hard for me to work on the thing we learned there.
And you said this is your master's degree, right?
Yeah, it was
I think just a few seconds ago you said bachelor's degree.
Oh.
This is your master's degree.
Yeah.
Okay.
I finished the bachelor in 2019.
Right.
And I started
2020.
the master in 2020.
Okay, sorry, just needed to clarify. Go ahead.
I had sleep.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
And yeah, it was okay. And the first year was okay. And then the second year we had to do an internship. So I made my way to the National Museum of Natural History in Paris because I was part of an exhibition they've done on transhumanism, and which is still present now, as I told you before, in the Museum of Man, the Musée de l'Homme, in front of the Eiffel Tower. And during the opening night, I was like, okay, I need an internship. Let's talk to people, because I wasn't shy anymore.
Yeah.
So I went talking to a lot of different people and say, oh, you want an internship? Okay. So the way I got it is like, I went to a woman and she's like, oh, I really like your intervention, like the talk you're giving into the exhibition.
I see.
And I was like, oh, who are those people like walking around? I knew who they were working for the museum. But you don't ask something.
No,
you
you're
just
so...
make your way. So I said, oh, what are those people? So like, oh, they're like scientists, like médiation scientifique. So they help people understand the exhibition.
Oh, I see.
And I was like, oh, I would love to do something like that. Do you looking for intern? And she was like, are you looking for internship? And so therefore I changed the thing. I made her asking me if I was looking for an internship rather than me asking for an internship.
Okay, have you read any of the work by Robert Greene? He's really popular author. He's an American. I don't know how popular he is outside of the U.S. His books have been translated into a bunch of languages, but he talks about power dynamics and how to not, I don't want to say coerce people, but how to encourage people to essentially do what you want, and I don't want to say that you're a manipulator or anything, but you are really, it sounds like you understand the power dynamics, how to encourage people, if you will, to do what you want. It's amazing. Sorry, go ahead.
And so that was the thing. Like, she asked me if I was looking for something, and I said, oh yeah. So we talked. I got her card, and then she said, oh, and I said, well, I really like the zoo in Paris, la Ménagerie, du Jardin des Plantes. And she said, oh, just talk to this bald guy there. And she literally said, the bald guy with the scarf. I said, okay. I went to this guy. I said, hey, hello. I've been told that I might go and talk to you if I needed something. He said, oh, what do you need? No. An internship. And then he said, okay, no problem. He gave me his card and we talked. We had some classes. And
do you think that you would have been able to acquire that, or not even acquire the internship, but do you think you would have even been able to begin to speak to people and network like you did if you hadn't worked at the mall?
This part of it, so the mall teach me how to
network, to be interactive with people.
And later, like in 2017, we'll go back to this afterward. But in 2017, something happened that also forced me to change a little bit the way I was behaving with people and the way I was being with myself and the world. And yeah, so both of them helped me. That's why I really find that job a great deal for me. It was great working there, and I learned so much.
Do you think, so you mentioned transhumanism, and I feel like I have an idea, but can you explain that a little bit, what the idea behind transhumanism, and then also your exhibit a little bit, if you don't mind?
Okay. So transhumanism is the ideology that human can like go further than the actual state is in through science, for instance. So in this exhibition hosted in the Museum of Man in Paris, they were talking about the fact that before, like at the beginning, humans were kind of animist people, so talking about spirits, about how the world is connected all together. And then the more we learn about life and science, and the more we try to overpass our own like identity and everything, building things. So there was a picture of a guy who grew some ear on his shoulder or something. It was kind of strange sometimes, And of course, at some point they were talking about prosthetics and how also like shoes help like runners to to run faster or something. So how technology was improving the way our way of life. And in this exhibition, I've been interviewed in 2018 or 19, and they were asking me like, oh, could you talk more about your life and because I was in this exhibition because I'm using prosthetics and they wanted to know if those prosthetics like matching the way we picture prosthetics like in our mind, like, oh, is this something that improves you? Is that something that helps you like being someone different or not? And that was the whole experience about this interview.
And I suppose we can refer to the interview for people who are more interested, but I mean, I'm a little bit interested. I am very interested. What's behind? What were your answers to some of those questions? I mean, actually before we move on to that, I think now is a good time to actually discuss what happened in 2017, if you don't mind.
Okay.
So, I was hoping to learn more about your experience as a survivor of meningitis, right? And if you're willing to, I would like to expand on it. So, you first contracted meningitis in 2017, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So, can you please just for one, I believe there's 2 different variants of meningitis, right?
I would say there's 3.
There's 3.
Yeah, that I learned. I was just like you. I thought there was 2. Like there's either a virus or a bacteria. But later I learned that maybe it could also be a fungus or something. Okay. The one I got was a bacteria. It was a type C. Type C. And I didn't know what meningitis was. I know it was meningitis, so it's something part of the brain. Okay. And I didn't know what it was, and what happened is I got this disease on. Well, the disease appeared in 2017, like February 28th. And
when you say appeared, what do you mean? That's when you first started to feel symptoms.
To feel it, yeah, to feel it, and in fact, like the doctors and everything, they asked my relative to say, okay, what Michael has done in the past 3 weeks, because it can take up to 3 weeks to get the disease, so that it can multiply and so they had to make a whole schedule of what I was doing. So okay, work on Sunday, Saturday, on Saturday, Sunday, on Thursday, on Friday. Okay, was at school at this time. And
sorry, go ahead.
And so it was bacteria, and so far until today, we have no idea what I contracted.
How you contracted it? Interesting. I mean, a bacteria, it would be on the surface or something, right?
So I've been asked, I've been asked where have you been, and I'm like, nowhere. It says, oh, maybe to the Mecca, because sometimes it happened during the Mecca. Because people are too close to one another. It helps the spreading of disease.
In Mecca?
Yeah, in Mecca. I've been told. And I said no. I was a student. I was working at the mall and working at home and working at the university.
Yeah.
Like studying. And so I didn't move from France. And it happened on February, and I've been told that this type of meningitis can happen in between November and March. So it was
interesting.
So yeah.
So you said February 28th.
28th
is when you first started to feel the symptoms. So what was, I think you mentioned in class that the first thing you felt was a headache, right? And then back pain, right? So can you start to walk me through the stages of your sickness?
So yeah, on Saturday.
You see, that's insane. You have it to the day. That's insane.
Yeah. On Saturday I was working at the mall. Perfect, no problem. I was good at it. Afterward, I went to the restaurant with a friend of mine, and on Sunday I was kind of feeling not that well.
Did you drink at the restaurant? Did you drink at the restaurant?
Yeah.
Did you think, maybe a little hangover or something like that?
No, that was because I was the one driving at the time.
Okay.
I had my driving license in the car.
Okay.
Yeah, finally. And so I was like, okay, something strange, but I was having my exam on Monday. Okay. So on Sunday I was like, okay, let's take some tea, a blanket, maybe it's some kind of a cold. It's February, it's France, it's raining, it's cold. Okay, I'm cold. So I was working, I was like, such a headache, it's so strange. And I started feeling like even like worse. Like I started having like cold. I was cold and at the same time I was sweating. I was like, what is that? And on Monday, the exam was there, so I was supposed to go to university, and it takes me an hour 45 minutes to get to university to go there. So I was starting at noon, and I left home pretty early, around 9 something.
And this is you go there by a metro?
By bus, train, and metro.
Oh geez, so you had a lot of transition. Did you have to, I don't mean to digress a little bit, but you had to, did you pay for each one? Because you did that every single, or very excuse me.
Go ahead.
You did that habitually, obviously, right?
So we have a fare that enables us to use all of them at once.
I see. Okay, go ahead.
So I went to the university, I sat down, and the exam was later, like the second part of the class, and the teacher was like, well, what happened to Michael? And my best friend was like, I don't know, it's so strange, he's sick and he never asked for medicine, but he asked me one. So yeah, I was not feeling great. I was like having 3 layers of sweater, t-shirt, stuff, and I was having my jacket on top of it, a scarf, a bonnet, and I was freezing. I was freezing and sweating. And he said, okay, just go back home and we'll figure it out for you.
You didn't want to call in. I mean, I don't know how. Obviously, there's been a couple times where I've told you, I'm not feeling good. I'm not going to be able to come to class today. I've emailed you. Is that something that you didn't want to do before you went to class?
No. As I said, I don't like to drop anything. So I'm like, okay, you have something planned, you need to go there.
Okay. Yeah.
And I went back home and I took a medicine and I went to bed. And I remember at 6 p.m. my brother came out. Are you eating with us tonight? And I said, no, it's okay. I'll have a cold, so I'll just stay in bed and it's gonna be okay. And during the night, like the freezing and stuff turned into pain in the back. I never had such a pain in my back, so I tried to stretch to make it like a little bit. Did not work, so I decided to take a shower because I was sweating and everything. I know nothing sexy about it. Okay, my clothes not like. So I went to the bathroom and I took a shower, but I was sitting on the floor with the shower head, and I was like, okay. And I dressed myself again. I went back to bed. And I waited, and I couldn't sleep again. It was so painful. So I went to my father's door because I was living at his place, and I knocked and was like, "What do you want?" I said, "I think something is strange." And I said, he opened his door, and he looked at me and said, "Oh, we need to go to the hospital." I didn't know why, but the only thing I remember was like standing and using the wall to walk to his bedroom, and I remember that he dressed myself because I couldn't dress myself. I was laying on my bed, so we had to put back my pants and everything. And then we went to the hospital. In the hospital, the nurse asked me what kind of drug I was doing. None, but still, to her, that nothing makes sense. So she was like asking and asking and asking. At some point, they figured there was something wrong. So I was moved to another hospital.
One that was more capable of.
Yeah. At first, this hospital, the first one, asked my father and brother to take me back to the car to go somewhere else.
Wow. Because
I really lost maybe half an hour or 45 minutes waiting for a doctor, talking to a nurse. Even my body was apparently not that great. I was starting to have like spots, like purple, black spots on my body. I was some kind of banana, something like that. Like there was really spots going from my hands to the top. So I was moved to another hospital. They called an ambulance. I was moved there, and my family couldn't go there because it was like 4 in the morning. They needed to go back later. So I was in this hospital. I remember seeing one of my friends Like I was undressed and I saw one of my friends. She was like, Michael, what are you doing here? I was like, I don't know, I'm sick. Just call the guys, the friend I was having, and
Oh my gosh.
and then I fall asleep. Well, I thought I fall asleep, but she told me like you screamed for 45 minutes. And I said, okay, I do not remember that. The brain is well done, you just skip that part.
Yeah.
And I woke up 2 months later. So I fell asleep on February 28th. I was supposed to see The Weeknd that night, like the concert he was having in France, in Paris. And in fact, I just ended up sleeping 2 months.
Oh my gosh. And then did you dream at all while you were asleep? Did you have any
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I was having dreams, but part of all those dreams was kind of strange. And here in this world, let's say, it spent 2 months okay, the 2 months that passed, but inside my head it spent years and years and years and years. And it was kind of a strange experience, and part of it was related to what my brain was currently having, like meningitis, all the things the brain was having trouble curing and understanding what was happening. And in fact, so I got meningitis, the type C, and on top of that, I got a purpura fulminant, which is a disease that, like in fact, stopped providing oxygen. So that's why I was turning into a banana, pretty much. The spots, necrosis spots. And on top of that, I got another one, which was in English it's CID, it's coagulation intra-disseminated, something like that. In French it's CIVD, coagulation intravasculaire disseminée. And in fact, my entire blood started coagulating all at once. So all that at the same time, which means that when my family came back later in the hospital to see me, I was already asleep in a coma. And
it wasn't an induced coma, right? It was just your body just basically entered a coma. Sorry.
I don't know. Maybe I was induced in it, and I know that I was sedated too, but morphine did not work, so they had to use ketamine.
Oh.
So maybe the dreams were part of that ketamine experience.
Yeah. Jeez.
But now the problem now is that morphine does not work. Like I'm thirsty when I'm having morphine for the other surgery I'm having, of course. I woke up in the first day I could remember was April or something like that. And that was the story.
Oh, wow. So you wake up and then I think you mentioned in class by the time you woke up they had already operated on you, right?
Yeah. I didn't know that. So during the dream,
and you couldn't see or hear.
Yeah. So when I woke up, I was not able to see because in fact there was so much pressure in the body because everything was coagulated that blood was injected into my eyeball, and so they were covered with blood.
So you could see, but just red?
No, it was
just dark?
because it was coagulated blood. It was brownish black.
Brown and blue kind of.
And I couldn't see. And one day I remember I told them I was able to see because I moved my head and I just saw a little bit of light. And I was like, oh. So I was moving my eyes left and right. And at some point I could see a little bit of light. I was like, oh, I'm seeing something. And the hearing, I lost part of it because the bacteria was having trouble with my brain. Okay, they were making my brain living hell in it. But the antibiotic I got rid of the hearing. So the right side is now having a cochlear implant, while the left side is having a hearing aid, regular one.
Hey, what implant?
A cochlear implant. So they had to put in 2018 I had a metal plate, they used to open behind my ear and put a metal plate inside my head, just under the skin, but they had to pierce a hole into the skull to get 2 electrodes inside the cochlea, and it works pretty well.
I see.
So it's a magnet that is stuck in it.
Right. I wonder because it's honestly so seamless when you put it on sometimes. Because my mom is actually deaf as well, but she has to actually manually insert her.
Yeah.
It's very similar to that one. Yeah, there you go. I see. And so what was the difference on each one? I mean, when I say difference, why was one the cochlear implant and then why was one the, I don't want to say regular, but just the traditional?
So the problem was that inside the here we have like 3 little bones. I know the name in French is l'enclume, l'étrier, et le marteau. I don't know the name in English.
It's okay.
And the problem is that part of it has been dissolved by the antibiotics. So I lost like the 3 of them when they looked at the image, like the MRI and stuff. They were like, okay, you definitely has no small bone or a little bit, so we need to get rid of them and place that thing. And they usually put this thing on the 2 ears at the same time, but they're like, okay, Michael, we'll make a test on you. Is that okay? Put this on.
How were you able to communicate when you woke up?
At first, I remember there's a friend of mine who had like she took a piece of paper and she wrote like letters, and she was like pointing at them, and I was supposed to blink for the letters. But it was so annoying for me, and the pain I was feeling in my entire body was horrible. And I was also having a tube to breathe. Yeah, because the entire body just shut down. The lung was filled with water. I got a cirrhosis. The heart is having 1/3 of the heart is like having scars on it. But so far, like I'm able to do sport or swim, and able to have drinks, and I'm breathing. So like, perfect, no problem. I'm not complaining.
One humongous meal later.
Because, I mean, look where I'm standing. I'm like in the US, like 9,000 kilometers from my home. I'm alone, like I have no family here.
You have a good friend network though here, right? I mean, go ahead.
Yes, I have friends. I'm making friends, and I'm really good at talking with people.
You've been here for 2 years now, almost 2 years.
So a year and a half now.
A year and a half. What was it like when you first came here from France? Because I mean, obviously you were coming here to be a professor. It was already arranged and everything, correct?
Well, not really, because I've been told first that the housing and everything would be taken care of by the university, which was not the case. So, and as I said, I've been told that I was about to be a TA, and in fact I was a lecturer. So I was not a student. But it's okay. I mean, I was, and in fact, the first year I was here in 2022, I had to go back to France to have a surgery.
Oh, I see.
Because my body is so strange that my bones keep growing.
Your bones continue to grow. Okay.
So my legs, we cut my legs 3 times already.
Where in your legs did they cut? Is it the? It's below the knee.
No, yeah, I've been so here. And this one has been cut in March 2017, and in October 2017. Like this has been cut in March 2017, October 2017.
31.
And
the male body, Yash, you know about
November
this, and I do. The male body ends its growing cycles typically. Are they growing at the same rates? Your right and left leg, are they growing? They're growing at different rates.
This one is more or less stable now, but this one will keep growing. But there's no feet at the end. It's just like the bones, and so I had a X-ray in urgent care in 2022, and you look at the bone. It's like 2002. Yeah, 2022, and the bone is going out. And the other day I went back to it, and the doctor was in the room and said, "Oh, are you the guy with the leg?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Oh, how things went?" I'm like, "Oh, good. I went back to France, I had a surgery." I said, "Do you want to look at it?" She said, "Oh yeah." So I just take my pants off, and I was like, "Look." And she was like, "Oh wow, that's well done," and everything. I don't mind being naked in the hospital. Like I know that people had to watch me and everything. I was like, oh, horrible. And of course, I woke up in the hospital with a fucking tube inside my to pee, and I was like, no, what is that? And they were like, okay, Michael, we're going to take it off, okay? At 3,
Did it hurt? Did it hurt when they did that?
Oh yeah. But there's always like good story about it. There's always good
A
story.
catheter, I think is what it's called, right? In English, at least, a catheter.
Yeah.
Oh, ils appellent ça un cathéter. Okay, they call it a cathéter.
Catheter.
Un cathéter. Usually in France, what they call a cathéter, it's something they put inside this arm to get to your heart.
I see.
And that is a sonde urinaire. And so they took it off and said, okay, Michael, now you need to pee by yourself. I'm like, okay. So they're like, drink water. I'm like, okay, sure. Oh. And what happened is like, my body was full of water, and I was like,
I don't know how to pee.
yeah,
I don't know how to pee.
for I don't know, it was in May, so since February, so March, April, May, for 3 months, I never pee like by myself, like manually, let's say. And I was like,
manually.
yeah, and I was like, how can you do that? So I was like, okay, Michael, do it. And so a nurse came in, and she was using something that we use on pregnant women to see how much water they have in it. So like, okay.
With the gel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she said, well, Michael, you need to pee now.
You really need to pee.
Because you really need to pee. Like, you reached the limit. And I'm like, okay. So she put because I couldn't move, okay? I had no muscle. I know I'm not, like, my hand is fucking like a turkey drumstick. So I'm like, at the time it was even worse. Yeah, literally, I get it. Off apart, changed up, and it's Thanksgiving turkey now. And the thing is like, I couldn't move, and what they've done is like, okay, you have a big button, and they put it there, and they said, well, in 15 minutes, if you did not pee, I'll have it put it back.
The catheter?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
And so what?
Like,
Like we go in a surgical room and you make me asleep and you put it back. So no, if you do not pee by yourself in 15, I'll be back and put it back. And so you put the button here. And if you cannot wait the 15, you just push it, and I'll come and put it back. And I wait 11 minutes, and I was like, I can't. So I pushed the button, and there's this light coming on and up saying that the room asked for help. And I was like, come on. I can't let people put something back in my penis. I'm like, come on, Michael. So I just focus. And I start peeing, and they put something like on top of it, looks like a condom, but to pee, like it goes to a bag somewhere. And I was like, I stopped peeing, and all of a sudden I could feel that there was something wrong with the cable. And in fact, the cable, I don't know the pressure or what, the cable broke. I was like peeing like that. So I ended up like holding my legs like that in the air, and the nurse came in. I was peeing for I don't know how many minutes. It was super long. Maybe it was just in my head that it was super long, but it was super long. And I was peeing, and I was like, yes, I'm working. So now every 16th of May, I'm drinking a lot of water to celebrate it.
Every 16th of May. Have you seen the movie Kill Bill?
No, every single time I'm falling asleep in front of it.
Really?
Yeah.
Jeez. Have you gotten to the part at least when she was in a coma similarly for
apparently
4 or 5. No, actually her situation was a couple years. She had to teach herself how to walk again, how to use her legs, how to move her feet, and everything like that. It's crazy.
Well, I didn't have to care about the feet
About the
anymore.
feet,
I was like, okay, but the hand, yes. Like my hand were closed for 10 months.
Really?
For 10 months, I was having my hands like that, like literally like that. I couldn't move them, and because the disease, so the CIVD, the CID I got, like struck the nerves, and so my hand just closed. And of course, they're waiting to see how much of the fingers we needed to cut. So they waited until like, oh, it's not enough. And so for 10 months I was drinking things like that.
Oh, so they didn't end up actually cutting your your fingers. They didn't remove the fingers while you were in a coma. They waited until after. The
No,
only thing they
well,
did during the coma was
yeah.
your legs. You may have mentioned why did they remove your legs during the coma?
I don't know. I just remember I must have been wake up and they asked me. They said, "Well, we are going to get rid of your legs, of your leg." I understand the leg, and so I said, "Okay, I will not be able to play basketball." Okay. The problem is, I thought I was saying that. The problem is, I was having a tube there, and my family said, "No, you just said." So I said, "Okay," and I woke up, and then I asked one of the nurse, "Okay, they get rid of my right leg. What about the left one?"
Mm-hmm.
And the guy looked at me and said, "What left leg are you talking about? What left feet are you talking about?" I said, "What?" And I tried to move and I saw that the sheet of the bed was like,
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh fuck." And in fact, it wasn't even a nurse. It was my brother. I discovered that this summer. It was my brother, and I did not recognize him. He said, "Yeah, it was me. I didn't do it on purpose. I thought you were aware that you didn't have legs, and I just told you."
Wow.
And so far it's great. I mean, I can, as I said in class, I can work on fire. I can work on puddle, like water puddle. I can work on Lego.
Did you get to one thing I've always wondered, or I've always imagined myself if I had prosthetics is I'm a short guy. I'd like a couple more inches. And did they give you that option? How does that work?
Yeah, I if I wanted, I could cheat and get more.
Cheat?
Yeah, it's cheating. I have a friend of mine who was in the hospital. I was coming and seeing her because I saw so many people during the hospital for them, and she was 46 at the time, and she asked like 10 centimeters, which is must be I don't know 2 and something each, and she decided to match her prosthetics with a car. So the prosthetics are like silver with glitter, and the car is
Her prosthetics, you mean?
yeah her
Yeah.
her prosthetics, yeah. Mine are just carbon fiber stuff.
So you mentioned in class how you've been helping some. You mentioned the Olympian, right? The Paralympian. I forget her name. Sorry, go ahead.
So Pauline Desroulettes,
Uh-huh.
yeah, Pauline Desroulettes is the French wheelchair champion, tennis player. She's a woman, and I met her during a physical therapist session. Okay.
Right.
And at first she didn't notice that I didn't have legs, and she was just like, "Oh, okay, let's do push-up, let's do abs." And all of a sudden she was like, "Why are you doing it? Why are you here?" And like, "What do you mean?" So one leg, second leg, she was like, "What?" and we started talking, and I stayed with her and others, and that was nice. And now she's doing her career, and it's great. I'm happy for her. And I met different people.
Right.
There was one ice skating artist who's now back on the ice, but not like ice skating professionally.
Ah, I see.
But she's back on it, which is great. I met some scientific like people from the scientific police. I don't know how to call it.
Scientific police.
Yeah, like police scientifique, which is like in CIA.
Like intelligence officers.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Someone. Sorry, go ahead.
And, so yeah, I met different people from different age, go from 21 to 56, different people, and the hospital is asking me to come and they said get the temperature and to see how those people feel, but also to help them a little bit to understand what will happen, what will come in this process of having legs not removed because they are already gone, but more having prosthetics. What is the path that you're supposed to follow? Even though my path is not one that is supposed to follow, you follow your own.
Guidelines, I suppose you could say. When did you, after, this is how much time has passed in this sense since you basically recovered, I suppose you can say, and then began doing this?
Doing what?
Doing helping other people kind of guiding their way in their recovery?
I would say a year.
About a year.
Yeah, because so I got my prosthetics in 2017 for Christmas pretty much. So I could walk with it, and I waited until Christmas to show my family I was able to stand and whatever. So Merry Christmas. And then
I think you mean Joyeux Noël.
the what?
Joyeux Noël.
What?
Joyeux Noël. Oui.
Joyeux Noël.
Joyeux Noël.
Joyeux Noël. Yeah,
Joyeux Noël.
Joyeux Noël. They were like, no, be careful, Michael, be careful. I was like, no, it's okay. And I was using crunches and then a cane for months, and then I was okay. But I couldn't climb downstairs. Climb upstairs was difficult, but it's easier to climb them than to get down.
That's what I was going to ask you about that. The adaptability in France for people who are obviously with disabilities in general. Is France really adapted? It's not at all, right?
No. I think that US is more adapted.
Definitely.
Yeah. For instance, here in Santa Barbara, I can see the bus like is having a ramp that goes up and people can enter. And in France, every single time I'm seeing this ramp, which is not something that is like unfold, but something that is retractable, so in and out. Every time it is going out, it's blocked. Every single time.
It doesn't actually continue all the way.
Oh, it go down, but it doesn't go up again. So in France, every single time I saw someone using like the bus, it got like stuck, and we're like, okay, we will have to change bus because the ramp is now stuck and we don't know how to fix it. So, and the metro, like this year is the Olympic game in France, in Paris. And it's the Paralympic game at the same time. The problem is nothing is done for like the metro.
That's gonna be a really big deal.
Yeah, I'm like, if I was a Olympic guy, which I'm not, I would say, okay, I'll get there using your public transportation.
Jeez, yeah.
Because you'll see. Well, one day I was having trouble walking, and I was like, okay, I'll just gonna follow the path. It's saying that there's an elevator to get to the metro, and I say, okay, I'll walk in the subways, and I ended up on stairs to get into the elevator. And I'm like,
what preparation has Paris done for because I know usually with the Olympics there's a whole bidding system for different cities to be the host and things like that. It sounds like Paris would have started planning for this technically years ago, right? It should have been like at least 5 or 10 years in advance.
Yeah.
Because the Qatar, or FIFA at least, when they did the Qatar, and they planned that for 10 years in advance, and they were adapting the whole city for it. Paris has had time to prepare for this, has had time to adapt their city, and you're saying it's not like that at all, really.
No. It's in all the metro station in Paris, like all the metro lines, there's only one that is accessible, ADA compliance, and
it wouldn't even be ADA because that's an American thing that American.
Yeah, it's like accessible.
Yeah, accessible.
And the problem is, the elevator never worked. So you'll have like, okay, or you can go in it, you cannot go out. One day I was going to take the train, not a metro, a train, and I was in a wheelchair. And I said, okay, how can I get to Paris? And the woman at the front there said, well, from this station you cannot. So what you can do, you get into the train in this station, you go back to the very last station on the train, and then you change the train and you get back to Paris. Or you get your car and you drive to another station, and there they will have your ADA elevator. And I was like, looking at me, I was in a wheelchair, no legs. I was like really, well, I'm still really thin and I was like, I don't have a car. And she said, oh, well, you cannot go to Paris then. And I was like, okay.
Who is, so, I don't know obviously which government, I need to look into it, which government agency, here in America at least, is responsible for ensuring that everyone complies with ADA and things like that. Who's just, what, is there an equivalent for that in France?
It's complicated to tell. I don't know. I know there's like an administration dedicated to people with disability.
Right.
So the MDPH, and those people take like the first year I've got like my full file for asking
It
for
took
help.
forever, huh? Go ahead.
Yeah, I filled it and completed it in 2017. The file got completed by them 2020.
3 years.
And here in the US, okay, I went to see a doctor and I said, oh, I do not have prosthetics. Could I get this paper signed so I can get the best bus pass, like mobility bus pass here in Santa Barbara? I said, yeah, sure. He signed the paper. I sent it to the agency, and the agency said, okay, no problem.
Here in America, you mean?
Yeah,
Everything
here
is
in the
quick,
US.
yeah.
I mean, Santa Barbara.
In Santa Barbara.
Even the DMV placard to park. So in France, it took me 3 years.
And you don't even have a car. And they,
Yeah, but still.
they still sent you the placard.
And I feel so the exact same paper I sent it to DMV vehicle stuff in for California on a Friday. No, on Thursday 10 p.m. Okay, on Friday 9 p.m. it said your file is being reviewed. At 10 a.m. No 9 a.m. your file is being reviewed. 10 a.m. your file has been completed. On Monday morning I was having the placard in my mailbox.
Jeez.
I was like, what? How? It's like weekend, and no, I ended up with it. I don't know. So I was like, okay, perfect.
I mean,
So now I'm like having this placard. I'm like, unlimited power. You put it there. You can park. Yeah, park here. That's my spot.
yeah, no, you totally, if you're driving with your friends or anything like that, you just put it on the placard, put the placard up, yeah. Geez, so you say in France there's you said it's the MDPH?
MDPH.
MDPH.
Yeah, it's Maison des Personnes Handicapées.
Oh, okay, I see.
Okay, and it's one for, so there's one in each department. Okay,
One in each department, what do you mean?
it's not a region. It's more like France is cut and separated into small, what's it called, départements.
Département. oui.
And I'm living in 77, Seine-et-Marne, and this one is like the hugest department in France. Let's go from south of Paris to east of Paris.
I'm trying to imagine a département is like the equivalent of a state kind of in the US.
Yeah, you could see that. Yeah.
Maybe I feel like it's probably a little bit less, because obviously the US we have sovereign states and everything like that, right? It's a little bit less decentralized in that sense, but it's coming from the American lens. It's kind of like a state.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the separation of administration according to
Uh,
places.
I see. And do the departements, are they? You say it's a separation of administration.
Yeah.
Is there a single? And obviously there's the central government in France, right? That it technically oversees all the departements. Is there? Do you know if the MPT dash and
MDPH.
MDPH, that is a government agency, right?
Yeah.
And that's not just in your department. Okay, and so the MDPH should be coordinating between all of them, right?
Yeah, they're supposed to be like the same for everyone, but it depends on the file, the people there. Like I've met some strange people there, like people just saying to me, to my face, like, oh, you know, I do not use my fare bus pass because I have a car, so, and I'm old, so I don't use it, but it's expensive. And I was like, I know, because I have to pay to get to school. And they said, well, you choose to get back to school. And I was like, well, because I don't want to stay home and do nothing. Like, I was 25 or 26, and I wanted to get back to my bachelor's degree and master's degree.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to go to school. The first thing I said when I woke up was like, oh, I failed my exam.
That sounds like me. I would say something like that.
It is literally the first thing I said, and that's why I really thought that I failed myself, that I betrayed myself not finishing this, and it has been like a hard thing to go through, like saying, okay, you have to stop that, you need to put your life in like parentheses for a while and get back to it later. So, but no.
Jeez. So what was it like with the schooling process? I mean, obviously, I don't want to say you failed the exam, you weren't able to do the exam. So did you just you ended your credits right there, and then you resume later, right?
Yeah. So what happened is like, so I was supposed to get the exam on the day I fell sick. Okay. And what happened is like, I had to get back the entire semester.
Yeah, you had to go from the beginning.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So I took another class, and some teacher was like, Michael, did you just came back from the hospital? I was like, no, I was out of the hospital like 7 months ago. And she was like, why do you keep going with the university? And I'm like, well, because I want my degree.
This is what I want to do in my life.
And she was like, oh, that's so brave of you. I'm like, well, I don't have a choice. I mean, if I want to get alive, I need definitely to get it.
Right. How many? So it's pretty typical, right? I don't want to say typical, but I guess this is a question more than a statement. How typical is it for students to pursue the higher education in France? I mean, at least a master's degree. You're at a master's degree at this point. You were doing a master's degree at that point.
Yeah. So it's the difference between the US and France. It's like in the US, it's really expensive. I'm like
Extremely expensive.
I look at UCSB fare and stuff, and I'm working there, so I don't even know if I should say that. But it's expensive, but it's the US in general. Okay, it's not something that is related to this university. It's the US in general, and regarding the difference with France. And in France, like, you have to pay some fees to get into the university, but the fees are like 300.
300 euro, you mean?
Yeah.
$300.
Yeah.
Be a little bit more.
And but people go back, and even there's like old people going to the university in France, which is great. But it's just like there's different people resuming school all over their life, and that's great. I think if one's feel the need to get back to it, should follow it.
What did you? Earlier you said that in high school you were emphasizing on HR, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting because I mean, it implies that you can specialize in high school. We're not able to specialize in high school here.
Oh.
No,
okay.
it's not that I know of, at least. I have never been. No one that I've spoken to has had the opportunity to tailor their high school experience to a specific field. So are you able to describe that? How does that work in France?
So after middle school, you get to high school. So there's a general what we call la seconde.
La seconde, like second.
Yeah, it's the first class in high school. Okay, and you can either be specialized in this very beginning class or later. So the first one I got when I was in seconde, so the first year in high school, I was into economy and social, and I did not like it. I didn't feel it, and so I switched for HR when I moved to the upper level. HR, and HR was like marketing, communication, a little bit of law and economy, a little bit, and some management also. And I was like, oh, so interesting. I was doing things, and now, for instance, we're using computer and Excel to write things. And I remember the final I was having in this class was you need to write an Excel formula on paper. So S equals no. Super hard. So that is different. And I was specializing in communication and HR, and that was interesting. And there's very different field. Like I know my little brother went to science. So yeah, there's literature, science, economy, like the general stuff, and then you can get into more particular, more technology or professional.
And this is all in high school.
Yeah,
And this is are you essentially finished with your general education at this point, or are you still doing a general education requirements, I suppose you could say, in high school?
Oh.
No, not now. I mean,
No.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, like when you finish your high school, you get a degree. You have to get the degree to finish the high school. It's a baccalaureate. Yeah, and after that, you're supposed to be like trained for that, but you need to get further, like university or what we call a BTS. It is not a K-pop band. It's BTS, c'est brevet technologique et scientifique in marketing or whatever.
So I believe I have one of my friends. Her name is Menin. She's from France. She was. I spoke to her just a little bit about it. I believe there's a standard test, right? A standard examination when you're finished high school.
Mhm.
Is that right? A standard examination that allows you to then apply to colleges and things like this, universities.
And this standard for the branch you choose. Okay, so it's not the same exam for everybody. It's the same exam for the branch. Like HR, we all have the same
Yeah.
when we went into HR,
Uh-huh.
and the same for science, literature,
Mm.
and so yeah, we had this baccalaureate, is it? And yeah, that's for this exam that I said that I liked coaching.
It's public education, right? It's
Yes.
not. It's not. But it's you don't have to pay anything to go to high school, or primary school, and then middle school and high school. You begin to pay when you enter university.
Yeah.
And that would just be essentially an admission fee, €300 about.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. And then when you're in college or university, I suppose you can say, my bad. That's when you get to choose an actual degree, obviously, and then just begin going from there.
Again, sorry.
No, my mistake. So once you finish your high school, right?
Mm-hmm.
You then apply to university. If you're gonna go the university route like you did, and then I guess what I'm trying to say is the when you apply to university, it's obviously encouraged that you continue from your high school education, right? Or that you focus on something there.
Yeah, you can. But for instance, I went to graphic design school.
Right.
Okay, so it was not part of the following process of this, and
So you had to take that standard examination when you graduated from high school.
Definitely. You in order to get into that school, you need
You have to take it.
Yeah,
I see.
yeah.
But you weren't even gonna apply that information really, or not directly at least in the graphic design.
But I got it. I was happy. I was like, oh yeah, I got it. Then I can enter the school I wanted to.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I wanted to discuss the interactions you've had with some of the people that we mentioned in the past with the physical therapy and things like that. One of the questions that I had in particular was how you think that you'd affected some of these people. I think what I wrote specifically was that you've interacted with many individuals who have been in the most difficult moments of their lives, I would say. So I was wondering, how do you feel that you made an impact on them?
So I met different people, some civil and some military, because the hospital I was in is a military hospital, military training hospital. And when people get back from war, they usually go there. And they put me there because the aftermath of the disease was so strange that they wanted
It was so intense that they put you there. The only people that were capable, it sounds like.
Exactly. They had like a section for people that were burned because I had like burning, like my skin was kind of burned when I woke up, hence the scar on my nose, on my arms. And so I met all those different people, and what I wanted to do first was like, okay, when I woke up, I was having my family, but I really felt alone. Like I had no one to like, okay, you have done that, maybe I could follow that, maybe I can try to do this. I don't know what was about to happen. And helping those people, I was like, okay, maybe I can try to give them what I didn't had at the time, which is support on this matter, like inside, advice on how they should fill some paper, or and also what will be the next step. Okay, you're doing this, that's great, okay, but it will take time before something else, or maybe it will be fast, but it's only up to you.
Yeah.
And I hope I help them, and I hope I will still be doing that if ever I'm going back to France.
Are you still in contact with some of these people?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Usually when I go back to Paris, I'm having like dinner or drinks with them. But of course lately, since I'm here, never happened.
Right. Wow. When you go back to France, who is it that you visit when you're obviously you visit your family and things like that, but and you visit some of your friends that you helped through the process. But what are some of the other things that you do when you go back?
Have to like check my prosthetics. So I'm going to it's a center when they check everything, they screw everything, unscrew everything, they look at the feet, okay, oh, it's broken, we need to change it. There's this, there's this year, like every year, I need to update the thing inside. So next year I'll change it. So not the internal part in my head, definitely not the external part.
The external part.
And so yeah, I have a lot of appointment, and that takes time. And I often had trouble like managing my time because I like, okay, you need to be on this side of Paris in the morning, this side in the afternoon, and you will also have like dinner and drinks with friends. So I'll
Jeez,
have to
dude,
do.
I bet you're so grateful for like, the transportation system, and it's so much better than the United States.
Yeah, in Paris.
In Paris,
In Paris, yeah. I can do like take the bus, take the metro, take the RER, like the train, and that could be good. And so yeah, but when I'm going to France, it's most of the time is for medical and family. And last December, I didn't have time to see all my friends, and so I missed part of it.
Have any of your friends come here to visit you?
Yeah, I have a great friend of mine. We met in the graphic design school, and she was there in April, and she was there in November, and we went to LA together. And she might be back in April, so she will be coming back in Santa Barbara.
Something like that.
And yeah, and I have my family who's supposed to visit me like in April for 2 weeks. That would be fun.
How often do you speak to your family on the phone and things like that?
To my family, let's say maybe once, twice a week.
That's good.
And it depends who. Like it could be my brothers, my father not so much. I'm like once every 2 weeks or something like that. I'm not really. In the past I wasn't really close to anybody before the disease, and then I realized I needed to be closer to them. First of all, because I needed support. I needed support also, but I could see that the other way around too. So I was like, okay, Michael, just pretend everything is fine. Everything is fine. And like people were like, oh, do you need help? No, it's okay. No.
Do you consult with a psychiatrist or a therapist or anything like that and speak about some of these things?
I used to when I was in the hospital, and at some point I just stopped because I didn't feel the need to. And when I'm thinking about stuff, like there's no bad mood. I'm never into a bad mood about what happened to me. I'm always happy to be here in the US, to be living my life at full potential. I'm like, Michael, you've been in a coma for 2 months. You wake up, you were slow, you were like blind, deaf, you were definitely not in a shape to do whatever you wanted. Even the doctor told me like, oh, you should not become a teacher because the student will be mean to you. And
really?
So I dropped the thing. I wanted to be a teacher before, an English teacher in France. And before my disease, well, the November that should follow the year of my disease, I was supposed to go to Ireland or England, get a degree there, and come back. And the doctor said, don't be a teacher. So I dropped it, and that's why I ended up in communication journalistic writing, because I was like, okay, well, let's try something else.
Jeez.
But I'm here. I'm like.
And honestly, you're probably. I don't. Are you grateful that the teacher discouraged you from doing that?
It was a doctor's.
Or excuse me, doctor. Yeah, that the doctor discouraged you from doing that.
I understand that was a way to protect me, but the problem is saying that to someone who is under medication, like heavy medication, and just woke up from a traumatic experience, like you spend months in the coma. So of course the person, like the patient, will follow your advice, like oh, you should not do that. Of course I will not. And at some point I decided not to listen to them. And okay, Michael, you should not try to put your prosthetics on when you are in your room. Okay, sure, close the door. Tick, 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 tick. And they were like, okay, Michael, we'll try to put you like to verticalize you. Like I was like, okay, I already know how to do that. Really? Yeah. Okay. So yeah.
I have one last question for you, and then we can go ahead and wrap this up. I know we've been filming for about 2 hours now, so I was wondering, we've seen the arc of your life. You know, from we started basically from the mall, and from your I don't want to say your childhood, but your early adulthood. We went through
we just went through some of your education, some of your experience with the medical complications, and then overcoming those complications, and then you helping other people, being a guiding light for them. And now you're a professor at UCSB. You're teaching French. Je suis un étudiant de français. And I'm wondering what is next for Mikael Gayen.
For Mikael Gayen, I don't know. Being a lecturer is already something that is a lecturer is something that is so big for me, and I'm like, okay.
And you're only 31.
Yeah.
Only 31 years old.
I mean, yeah, sure. But I mean, I don't know. I was planning for years to write something, so I started writing something about the coma, the experience after that, my life, everyday life, and there's like little episodes that are really interesting. I would say, like people that you met in life, people that you met in a train, experience you're having, and maybe I'll try to continue with it. But so far, like I'm doing things here now, and I don't like anymore to plan stuff. It's something that before that I was someone that was planning a lot of things on the long term.
That's almost been a theme throughout our conversation. you
yeah?
just spontaneously took the professor job, right?
Now, yeah.
Spontaneously decided to start learning to learn how to roller skate. So I wouldn't say that it's a completely new thing for you, the being a little bit spontaneous.
And it's strange, as you said. I just accept to roller skate, and I did not thought about that before. But I don't know. I was really a shy guy. I was the kind of a guy like in a group of friends who's making jokes all around. Well, hopefully, good joke. But now, with everything that happened, I'm way more confident with myself. In my head, I'm like, no, I don't. Michael, you've been naked in front of a lot of people in the hospital, a lot of people in your life. You
did the posing you were a model.
The nude posing when I was in Paris and an art student. I'm like, I don't know what will come, okay, and I'm just accepting whatever comes to me because sometimes you can be good, okay, sometimes you can be bad, okay, but bad is also part of the good. Like you need to know the bad side to know the good side of things. So as long as I don't put myself in danger, I would say I would accept everything and just embrace. I'm embracing the life I'm having now, and I do not compare it with the life I was having before. So I was like, for a time I was comparing it. Oh, before I was able to do that. Before I was able to, and now I'm like, oh, okay. No, Michael, you're the same. You just changed, and so far the change are good, and I'm able to do a lot of things I was able to do before. And I'm even able to do things that I was not able to do. Walking on fire, Michael, you can do it now. and
walking through the snow.
Exactly. No, like I don't care. Water will never like wet my feet. My feet will be always dry. I'm good.
Vous êtes Terminator?
Un Terminator, ouais. Un peu. People like, I remember there's the son of a cousin of mine. He said, oh, he presented me to his friends in primary school. Look at that, it's Iron Man. Look at that. So he just pulled out my leg and was like, look at that, it's Iron Man.
The show and tell.
and then the teachers there, they're like, oh no, oh we're so sorry. I'm like, why? Why are you sorry? Oh, they told you were Iron Man, and they were looking at your legs. I'm like, I don't care, that's okay. The more you put people in front of it, and the less they will be scared. And with my student, I like to talk about those things like disability or health and just to challenge those.
You want to demystify it.
Yeah,
I totally understand. Yeah,
and it's good for everybody, for them, like to know that there's people all around the world that are able to do crazy thing, knowing that they have like disability, and it's also for me it's good to tell people, okay, you need to be careful with your life. I'm not saying you should not do anything. I'm saying you should be careful with your life. Take the time to do stuff. I know that in US people are stressed all around, and I'm like, no. Sometimes you need just to pause, look around, and say, oh, I'm living in a beautiful place. I'm having a beautiful life.
There's an American expression. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's called it's saying the way you say it is you have to stop and smell the roses sometimes. And I think that's what you're trying to say. You have to stop and just smell the roses sometimes, enjoy the situation that you're in. I think what's funny is I recently experienced that the other day. It was storming here. You were here in the area. It was storming and the power went out. I don't know if your power went out. Our power, the lights, they shut off.
Okay.
And I had nothing to do. You know, I was having complications with my hotspot, and so I couldn't use the Wi-Fi on my phone, things like that, or my computer, because I wanted to type an essay to get some work done, but I couldn't do anything, and then I just stopped and kind of smelled the roses. There was no lights or anything like that. It was just me, and I had a manual flashlight, and I sat down, for 20 minutes, kind of meditated a little bit, and started reading some books, started taking some notes and things like that, and then after I emerged from that short 3-hour time span of having no power, and really just felt amazing. And so I suppose that's what you have to do sometimes, is just stop and smell the roses.
I had the time to do it.
Right.
In the hospital, I had the time to do it.
Mm.
That's why I'm asking people to take this time at the same time. But I know we have a lot of things in our brain constantly. And so just sat, think, breathe, and look around. Yeah.
Okay. I think that'll wrap up this episode, the first episode of Farm Boy Meets the World. My name is Mikael Harter, aka the Farm Boy. I was joined today by Mikael Gayen. He's my professor here at UCSB. That's it. That's all I have to say, guys. Thank you so much.
Bye.